Anyway, but Judy is here, and she'd like to play part of a segment that Mark Belling did on his program, and I think it's about 6 minutes long, and we're going to use real high-tech wizardry. I'm going to hold her phone next to this microphone, and so it'll help if you need to move a little closer to here. That's great. If you can keep conversation to a minimum while it's going on. You know, somebody might be trying to hear it near you, and if you can help them out, that'd be great. So we hope it works. Here goes. Okay.
It's going to be very warm for the middle part of the week. In fact, it might be over 90 by Wednesday and Thursday, with it cooling off Friday and especially Saturday and Sunday.
He talks about the weather.
Is it up as far as it goes?
There is a chance for showers tonight in South Mike.
He does the weather first and then he starts.
Okay, that'll be.
Background.
Okay, yeah.
If you've been following the show, you're aware that one of the counties that lately has been pushing one of these ordinances to give their county health department the ability to go in and take action to shut down businesses and so on is Sheboygan County. The county administrator there, whose name is Payne, is saying, look, we only want to have this authority if the COVID thing really blows up. We know it's not been bad in Sheboygan. We don't intend to use this now. We just want to be able to take emergency action if we get to a point where our health system is overrun.
Lies.
It's a tape.
Now, as you know, I have opposed all of these ordinances. I do not believe it should be the role of government to shut down businesses because of health situations. I believe that if there's a health problem going on, that people can make good enough judgments for themselves. Some people will hide in the basement for weeks on their own choice, and other people won't change their behavior at all. And we've managed to work our way through far more contagious and deadly diseases than this one, with that reality, including polio, smallpox, some of the worst plagues that you could imagine they've run through the United States in the past, and we figured out how to deal with them without giving some bureaucrat sitting in a county courthouse the ability to ruin people's lives by shutting down their businesses and taking away their income. But whether you agree with that extreme position of mine or not, that there shouldn't be these county health departments and no one should issue an order or not, in Sheboygan County they're saying, look, our ordinance has all sorts of checks and balances and we're only going to use it in an extreme type of situation. People don't trust this. The reason they don't trust it is they have seen what has happened so far in other parts of the state and in other parts of the country with some of these orders in place because of COVID.
And we don't want it here.
They've seen, for example, they won't let anybody, public or private, open school in Madison, despite the fact that Madison's numbers are extremely low for COVID. And they realize that this is done by the same type of health official that they have in the other counties. Now, the people of Sheboygan will say, well, but that's Madison, that's not us. Our people are reasonable. Are they?
No.
This brings me to a story. I keep saying, you think you've seen it all. I don't know if I've heard of this before.
Vote no.
But it's the sort of thing that's going on right now with some of these pissants that are involved in government.
Vote no.
Everything about this story is weird, including the fact that the people involved have the same last name, but they're not related. It's spelled differently, but this is going to make the story a little bit hard for me to get to deal with you, so you got to work with me on this. A lady decided to write to members of the Sheboygan County Board about her opposition to the county health ordinance. You know, people write in support and opposition to these kinds of things all the time. As I mentioned, liberals riot, conservatives send emails.
But mean one.
The lady sent an email. I'm holding it in front of me. It's not real long, but it's long enough. It's well written. She explains why she doesn't support the ordinance in Sheboygan County. Her name is Kathleen Gehring. And she sent the email to members of the Sheboygan County Board, including including Supervisor William Gehring. Now again, it's just a coincidence these people have the same last name. They're pronounced almost the same. One is spelled with an O, the other one is spelled with an E. So the letter writer, who's enforced to the ordinance, is named Kathleen Gehring, and she sends a thing to her supervisor named William Gehring. I'm assured by all involved they're not related. In fact, they don't even know each other. So William Gehring is a member of the Sheboygan County Board. He represents the Random Lake area on the county board. He gets this letter from a constituent, Kathleen, opposing the health ordinance. What he did boggles the mind. The county board member who got the letter from this lady contacts the lady's husband's boss. Mrs. Gehring's husband is an anesthesiologist. That's a physician. They're the one, you know what they do. They put the mask over your face and all that stuff. He's an anesthesiologist with Aurora.
Oh, jeez.
Figures.
The supervisor, William Gehring, calls the guy who's the head of, he writes, contacts the guy who's the head of the Aurora Sheboygan Hospital.
Why?
Remember now, the doctor who works at the hospital, he didn't write the email, his wife did. To use this as an example, this would be like if Dave Michaels' wife wrote a letter to some politician, and the politician contacted Colleen, our general manager here at Iheart, over not what Dave did, but what his wife did.
Checks and balances, right?
I've never heard of this. I mean, I've heard of if somebody made terrible threats and you tell the police or something, but nothing like this. William Gehring contacted Dave Gravener, who runs the Aurora Sheboygan Hospital. This is what he wrote. Mr. Gravener, as a longtime Sheboygan County supervisor and someone who worked in the healthcare field for the Department of Health Services for the last 8 years of my professional career, I was disappointed to receive the attached email from the spouse of an Aurora doctor. Well, I agree that I cannot and do not control the opinions of my spouse. I trust you have made all employees of the Aurora family aware of how Sheboygan County is working in partnership with the hospitals in Sheboygan County in an attempt to assure the healthcare systems are not overrun with COVID patients in the future. It is also my understanding that Advocate Aurora and the St. Nicholas Previa are in agreement with the intent of Ordinance Number 3. Thank you for reading my emails and hearing of my concerns. So this county board member, William Gehring, rats out a doctor in Aurora because his wife wrote an email.
Get him out!
I'm telling you.
Isn't that what they do in
This stuff
kindergarten?
with regard to, if you're right, et cetera, you can't talk anymore. And by the way, I've read the lady's email. It's unpolite, and she has her reasons. Maybe you support the health ordinance, maybe you're against it. First of all, she's a doctor's wife, and she's, from what I can tell, she's, I believe, in her 60s. She's not like some, you dirty yoga. It's none of that. It's politely written. His supervisor, Gehring, this goof from Random Lake, contacts the head of Aurora, bitching about the fact you got a doctor whose wife objects to this. How dare I'm a healthcare professional? I know. So God forbid that any residents of Sheboygan County could offer any kind of input here, not to at least old man Gehring, the member of the county board. He knows. He worked at DHS. Oh, wow. It's the same crap you get from teachers.
None here, though.
The reason why it's hard for many of us to trust these health agencies that they won't overstep their authority. Look at this. You got a county board member who's going to the boss of somebody because he got a letter. I wouldn't trust any of those people. How in the world can you trust that a guy like William Garrett would not overstep his authority when he's ratting people out to their boss over an email that the spouse sent about an ordinance? That is a buffoon who is power hungry, who's out there. He was trying to get this doctor in trouble with his boss. Why else did you go right the boss? Hey, I understand and maybe Aurora does support the ordinance. Why does that mean that the wife of somebody... That would be like Dave Michaels' wife is not allowed to disagree with the position I just took on this show because Dave Michaels is on my show today and therefore... the idea that... I would jokingly and perhaps make a point of that. You're right, the boss. There's a kicker to this story. And it shows what a dope William Garrett is. The doctor doesn't even work at Aurora anymore. The doctor is the one that contacted me and he said, look what the guy tried to do to me. He said, no, I'm retired. But he said probably, if you go on to some of these hospital sites, doctors' names might still be on there. So he said, and probably he got the other Garrett, the supervisor Garrett, gets the email, goes and checks her up, sees the doctor's name on the Aurora site, probably thinks that he's still where, okay, I'm going to go after him. Yeah, I did a Google search and that was the end of it. Now, I reached out to the supervisor, William Gehring, and he has not gotten back to me. This is repugnant behavior by a public official. It's the kind of behavior that ought to be sanctioned by the Sheboygan County Board. People have a right to disagree with you, Gehring. And you have a right to respond, ignore, do whatever you want, and the voters can decide if they want to have a goof like you on their county board or not. If this were something in which the woman said terribly racist things or threatened employees of the agency or none of that. She's just one of many people in Sheboygan County. And by the way, I agree with her. I think these ordinances are a bad idea. And, hey, old man Gehring, you don't have to go contact my boss. I think she probably is aware of what my position is since she's on the radio. Going after a guy because he's... Going after... I don't even know who he was most trying to get in trouble. What's it? First of all, let's imagine the other Gehring, Dr. Gehring, the doctor from Aurora. Maybe he even agrees with the ordinance. There are cases in which people in a marriage disagree. What's he supposed to do? Go chop his wife's hands off? Take away her computer access? Those of you in Random Lake, you're represented by a buffoon. And a mean-spirited one. And you wonder why we doubt whether or not you can trust government to show proper discretion when you've got some dink on the county board who can't even stop himself from trying to get a doctor who served his community for decades in trouble because his wife sent you an email that you disagree with?